Again, I'm showing you how I keep these trees in good health. I let a lot of these shoots grow unchecked, and in fact I'm just going to prune it just for the sake of this video, but I would let it grow even more. So I'm just going to prune it to the outline, and then I will explain to you the significance of this tree. This tree, by the way, is a very, very famous tree of mine. This is a trident maple. So I've let it grow strong, unchecked, to develop more vigor in this tree. This tree, I would say, would be easily touching 100 years old, possibly more. It has a very famous history, and once I've just done some of this pruning, I will talk more about it. It is almost like a classic broom shape. Right, now that I've got all these long shoots off which were distracting me, I'm now going to tell you something about this tree. If you look closely, this is clearly a Japanese root over rock trident maple. Trident maples are favorite species for growing in this root over rock style. And in Japan, most of the root over rocks are trident maples. I know that they grow pines on rock, hornbeams on rock, so many other species are grown on rock. But the trident is by far the most popular species for growing in this root over rock style. However, this tree is no ordinary tree. Most of the root over rock tridents are grown on the Japanese Ibigawa volcanic rock. But this one has been grown on red sandstone rock. If you look at it, this is a piece of red sandstone, and the roots have completely gripped the rock. And it reminds you of these ficus trees that you find in Angkor Wat, which, you know, grip the rocks and grip the temples, and they smother the buildings and temples. This is the image that has been created by the grower. The history of this famous trident maple, by the way, I call this the hedgehog. I don't often give names to my trees. There are some people who give names, all sorts of people name or pet names, or Caroline, Joe, or Horace, or Eustace, or whatever. But I don't often give names to my trees. But this tree is called the hedgehog. I didn't call it the hedgehog, but whenever I used to exhibit the tree, people used to call it the hedgehog because it looked like a hedgehog. It is round with spikes coming up. This tree, the history is as follows. It was one of those trees which came with one of the earliest imports from Japan by this company called Bromwich & Young. Bromwich & Young was one of the first importers of bonsai in the UK. They used to export lily of their value, and they used to buy Japanese lily bulbs, but they also imported some bonsai. So this tree came from Japan in 1962. And as always, the director of the company, Norman Grispeed, who sadly has passed away, he was one of the 4 directors of this company, and he imported this tree from Japan, and he always kept the best trees for himself. And over a period of time, he sold this tree to another gentleman called Mr. Humphrey, who was the chairman or the organizer of the British Bonsai Association. So Mr. Humphrey had this tree for a few years, and when he got bored of this tree, he sold it to me. So when I met him in 1974, I just joined the BBA at the time. He showed it at Chelsea a number of times, and I always told him that if ever you want to sell it, I'll buy it from you. So I bought it from him in the 70s. I can't remember when in the 70s, but I've owned this tree many, many years. Certainly between 30 and 40 years it's been in my possession. And it's unique because it's grown on this red sandstone, And it was made by growing several tridents on the same rock. So there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 trees were meshed together. Some of them are so old that they have died, like this one has died, that's died, that's died. It's simply from old age. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them have died, and I've got probably 6 of them left. But the roots are still interesting, so I prefer to keep them. So I don't use this as the front, I use this as the back. But the other side is still quite interesting, and the tree is still growing on. And I hazard a guess that it is approaching 100 years old. And so this is the famous hedgehog, and I will show you images of this tree over the years. And this tree has been shown at the Chelsea Flower Show and many other exhibitions for many, many years. So this is a famous tree. So apart from telling you about how we prune these trees, this is the history of the hedgehog. So I hope you enjoyed these. Thank you very much.